Hey everyone, welcome to Wildlife Inspired. I'm your host, Scott Keys, and I bought something. It's a Nikon Z6iii, and I'm not sure I should have, and I need your help right after this. This camera came out about a month ago, and I've been really curious about it. Will it work for wildlife photography? And I've watched some videos and done some research on it, but before I decide to make a purchase, I go a little crazy. I mean, I suffer from analysis paralysis sometimes. You may relate to this, but it's whether I'm purchasing cameras or a can of beans at the supermarket. I just want to read everything and learn everything, and I want to make the perfect choice. And I did something I normally don't do. I'd read a little bit about it. I knew a little bit about it. And I thought I would reach out to B&H and say, hey, send me a loaner. Let me test it for wildlife. And as I was doing it, I'm like, I need a backup camera. Just buy it. I clicked the button, my heart started beating, and a day later this shows up and I'm like, I'm not sure I did the right thing. A little bit of buyer's remorse, I don't know. So I gave it another day and I did more research. Like, did I make the right choice on this? And I want your help. I need somebody to validate and say like, Scott, you're good. I think you made a smart choice. I'm gonna tell you what I have. I'm gonna tell you what this needs to do for me. You tell me if I get it right. If enough people tell me this is a dumb purchase, I haven't even opened it. I'm afraid to open the box. I'm gonna send it back. In my head, I needed a backup mirrorless camera. So I've got my Z9. I've been using an older D500. I had a D850. It is no longer with us, rest in peace. The D500 has been a suitable backup. I don't use it that often, but I wanted a second body. A is a backup if I'm traveling, something happens, I've got another one to shoot. But the majority of this would be for video. And this is a hybrid camera. So I'll go through some of the specs, but let me just kind of tell you an overview of what this is. Marketed as a hybrid camera, good video performance, solid still photography, give you a little best of both worlds. Maybe this is what I need. I need extra video. So when I'm out on the field, maybe I can put a special lens on this. Maybe this is set up, I can grab this and go in the yard. And I do a lot of photography around plants and insects. I also do a lot of videos around those. And this had some nice features for video. I'll get into a little bit of, I'm not gonna make this a technical video. I just need your help. I'm giving you the backstory of why I need your help and what's the purpose of this for me. Okay, so little video, maybe some macro. So I put my macro lens on here while I'm in the house instead of taking the lens off, putting it back on, running out in the yard. Maybe some macro with this. And then part of it is just a backup, just something to have in case. If I'm out in the field and I want to take two cameras or two lenses, I want to do some wild or some landscape or some flower photography, I don't have to keep changing lenses back and forth. I throw this in my backpack and there I go. Okay, so that's what I need. The options. I could go crop sensor like a Z5. If you know anything about Nikon bodies, nice little camera. I could go Z8, that's the obvious choice. I mean, I'm already shooting, expensive equipment, get the Z8. And then I saw this one, I saw the price and I'm like, oh boy, that's $1,000 plus less. Do I need the Z8? Is it just the same as what I have? Do I want a different camera? Do I want a different system? Something that's different. So here's what's different. I'll put Z8 up here and Z6 kind of side by side. Some of the key factors. Now there's a lot of differences, but the biggest one, price, megapixels. Lower megapixels, 24 versus 40 plus. That is for a wildlife photographer, you cringe a little when you get under 30 megapixels because we like to crop. Hard to get close to subjects sometimes. So having the ability to crop a little bit is good. 24 megapixels, by the way, is plenty of megapixels. It might require a little more field work in getting it right in camera. So nothing wrong with that. But 24 megapixels. There were a couple technical issues with this. So I watched some videos. For videography, there's something called shadow flicker. Noise performance may not be as good. I expected it to be better. 24 megapixels. Generally speaking, lower megapixels, same generation, better ISO or better noise performance, often better dynamic range. Not the case with this one. This one's dynamic range is not as good as the Z9 or even the Z6iii or even some of the other Nikon bodies out there. So, did I do the right thing? Now, I do want to mention one thing. So I got some of the specs up here. You see the difference in price and megapixels and the performance and what this is geared at. That lower megapixels gave me a lot of performance. The Z6 II, not my camera for wildlife. Autofocus wasn't great, didn't track real fast. It was a slower processor. This one has a very fast processor. And so what they've done, what Nikon has kind of done is lowered the resolution, increased the processing power, and it gives you fast ability for autofocus. So it's got very similar autofocus to this really expensive camera. It's got very good frame rate for video. So I can, shooting faster frame rate allows me to slow it down. And I really like that as a wildlife photographer. I like to do some slow motion so I can get 4K video at 120 frames. I can also get 6K video out of this. And that's something that the older generations, the Z6, Z6 II, they were not capable of that. So again, this hybrid model really has some promising features for videography. It's designed for videography. That tilt screen or articulating screen flips all the way around so that when I'm recording, I can actually see myself. I can't tell you how many times I've taken a camera outside to record YouTube videos and I've had to hook up a monitor to it so I could see where I was framed in the camera. This gives me a little bit of that. So I've got my outside video camera now, so I can do some of these YouTube videos outside with this. I can record some slow motion wildlife, some slow motion insects, maybe even some macro photography that I like to play around with. I can do all that with this camera. I would like a macro body, and for that I'd like more megapixels. Is 24 megapixels enough for macro photography? Don't know. I have used a crop sensor that did that, but I've never used a full frame body for macro photography that was 24 megapixels or lower. So, in a percentage basis, what am I using it for? Let's call this 50 to 60% videography, maybe 30% macro. You can always grab that one for macro, by the way. 30% for macro, maybe 10% just as a backup. Like if all else fails, this is going to be my wildlife camera while that one gets repaired or it's getting fixed or getting cleaned or whatever. This will be my wildlife. I don't have another body. I'm going to sell my D500. This is it. I do, by the way, have a Z6 II. I have used it. I understand it. This is my video camera. This is my permanent YouTube indoor camera now. This is what I use. It's got good low light performance and sensor's real nice. It does everything I want to do for video. It is a very expensive, overpriced webcam, but I like it for the purposes of what I've got it. I could not use it for wildlife. This one I think I can. So here's what I need to know. You understand why I got it. Do I keep it? Because it's a little different than what I have, and that's a good thing. Maybe I want something that's a little bit different. Or did I make the wrong decision and do I send this back and get a Z8 and pay more money for it? Do I basically get the same camera that I have up here, a little smaller, a little less money than the Z9? I'd love to have two Z9s, but do I need to spend that money for a backup? And is the video more than suitable for what I need? Is this maybe even a better choice for video than a Z8? Oh, did I do the right thing here, people? Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna read your comments. I'm gonna consider this for 2 days. And then I'm gonna either send it back or I'm gonna open it up and start using it. If I use it, if I keep it, I'm gonna send it out in the field and I'm gonna test it for all of my fall photography. I do a lot of birds in fall. I am gonna commit to sticking a lens on this thing and I'm gonna give you a real review. I'm not gonna give you, I've had the body for 24 hours. I'm not gonna give you something that's just out in my backyard. I'm gonna take this in the field. I'm gonna test some of these things, these technical things that are out there around this body. Is the dynamic range really an issue? Is the low light performance better than it might be with Z8 or Z9? I can do some controlled experiments. I can take the same lens, switch bodies. I can show you out in a controlled environment, in low light specifically. Do I get the advantages that I used to get? In the old days, lower megapixels, I would generally get better noise performance and typically better dynamic range. That may not be the case here. This has, and I'll throw one technical thing at you. There are dual gain processors out there. Actually, many cameras nowadays have dual gain processors. What that means is at one ISO, you get one performance, and at another ISO, you get a different performance. It's a tough concept, and in my technical video review of this, I may go into that a little bit more. The dual gain for this is set at 800 ISO, which means at 800 ISO, the performance here is actually very good. The base performance in terms of noise and dynamic range may not be great at 100 ISO. That's this base ISO, if you understand that concept. So you can read some more about this. There's some technical articles out there, some YouTube videos out there that will explain this. But I don't feel that is, if somebody puts in the comments, hey, I read there's problems with dynamic range, I don't think that's an issue for me. If I was a landscape photographer, that might be an issue. Landscape photographers generally like the cleanest image shot at base ISO. And the base ISO on this, the performance may not be as good. But I'm a wildlife photographer shooting in a lot of low light. My ISO is typically starts at 400. A lot of times it's at 800, and I go up to 1600, 3200. So I'm not afraid of those. And that knowing that dual gain kind of kicks in around 800, this may not have any of those issues for me. I'll test that real life if I decide to keep it. What do I need to know from you right now? Go down to the comments. Well, first of all, subscribe to the channel. I have playlists, so not everything is, this is a quick thoughts video, not everything's quick thoughts. I do educational pieces, I do product reviews, so check out the playlists, make sure you're subscribed, and now go down to the comments and tell me, does this make sense paired with a Z9, this being my backup in video, different sensor in there. They call this a partially stacked sensor. It's a different technology for Nikon. First generation of that, could be some problems. Do I keep it? Knowing it's a little bit more affordable than some of the other backup options. Might also be a little bit more expensive than some of the other backup options, like that Z5 I had mentioned earlier. Price point, not too bad for me. It's about what I want to spend, $2,000, maybe $3,000 on a backup body. I don't want to go much more than that. I am value conscious, by the way. I still work. I'm not independently wealthy. I didn't win the lottery. Every dollar, this is my money. I didn't loan this from B&H. It wasn't given to me. My hard-earned money went into this. Did I make the right choice? You let me know. I do appreciate you on this Quick Thoughts video, kind of entertaining me, maybe giving me some advice. Let me know what you think. I'll have some more videos coming out, some product reviews. Actually, this tripod in the background, got that product review coming up. You're gonna like that one, so stay tuned. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications so you can see all of my new videos. And as always, I hope we can continue to find inspiration in wildlife together.